Good afternoon. One of my favorite moments in being a psychotherapist for 40 years, and I mean this sincerely, is when a patient comes in for their session, sits down, and says, You know, something you said last week didn't sit very well with me. Oh, I just light up inside when I hear that because I love the courage it takes for them to admit their disappointment in me. I love that they're willing to be honest, even when they think I might not like it. I celebrate that moment because it means we've built enough trust in our relationship for them to show up fully and tell me the truth. So in today's video, we're talking about something we all struggle with, especially if we were raised to be good and kind and never rock the boat. We're talking about what it means to be a disappointment, to let people down sometimes, but at the same time, still knowing that you are worthy of love. Because here's the truth. Growth means learning to be a disappointment. It's a necessary part of our growth because it means becoming emotionally honest, setting boundaries if we have to, and most of all, living your truth. And I actually wrote about this very thing in one of the letters from my book, the Dear One Letters, A Path to Growing as a Human and Evolving as a Soul. And I think it's right here behind me. And I wrote it because I've seen over and over again that so much of our suffering comes from trying to live up to everybody else's expectations instead of being true to ourselves. So when a patient is brave enough to tell me how they really feel, I'll always respond this way. Thank you so much for telling me this. I can see why you'd feel that way. It looks like I made a mistake with you last week. And, well, I can certainly be a disappointment. And almost every time they panic a little and say, Oh, no, I'm not saying that. You're not a disappointment at all. And I'll smile and say, It's okay. Believe me, I can be disappointing. And they usually come back one more time and say, Oh, no, you're not really. And it's then that I will lovingly say back to them, Let me be a disappointment. It's okay. And I say this for two reasons. First, if I can be a disappointment and be okay about it, then so can they. And guess what? The world doesn't come to an end. And the second is that the underlying fear they have is that if they express disappointment to me, that I'll pull away and they'll lose my approval, my love, or my wisdom. And that is the underlying fear in all of us, that if we disappoint, we will lose something. But when I reassure them that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm actually proud of them for speaking their truth, something wonderful happens. The trust between us deepens, and the relationship becomes more real, because real relationships require honesty, not perfection. So, let's talk about you. How many times have you said yes when you really wanted to say no? How many times have you swallowed your truth to keep the peace? And how many times have you tried to meet someone else's expectations, afraid that if you let them down, you'd lose their love? Well, we don't often say it out loud, but we're afraid. We're afraid that if we disappoint someone, we'll be either rejected or abandoned or unloved. But the beautiful truth is that loving yourself requires that you learn to be a disappointment. Because if you can't risk letting anybody down, you will always end up feeling resentful of that other person deep down inside. And you know exactly what I mean by that. But even most importantly, by not being willing to be a disappointment, you are letting yourself down and betraying yourself. So what is disappointment really? Well, let's look at that. It's really the breaking of an illusion. It's the underlying shoulds we carry with us about how life should be, how others should be, and how we should be. You thought your partner would always show up a certain way, and when they didn't, the illusion of how you thought they should be got shattered. The illusion broke. You believed your career would unfold exactly as you planned, and when it didn't, the illusion broke. And you imagined a friend would never let you down, and when they did, whew, the illusion broke. But you see, it's not that those situations failed you. They just didn't turn out the way you imagined they would. And yes, that can really hurt. But those illusions have to shatter before we can see that people aren't meant to live up to our expectations. They're meant to be who they really are, flawed and human and real and imperfect. And the good news is, the same thing goes for us when we disappoint others. A parent might expect a child to follow a certain life path, and then when the child chooses differently, their illusion breaks. A partner expects us to always agree or side with them, and then when you speak your truth, their illusion breaks. A friend expects you to always be there, but the one time you can't, their illusion breaks. Again, it's not that you failed them. It's that you didn't match their picture of who they thought you should be. So here's how I deal with disappointment in my own life. And you can use this example with anyone: a child, a parent, a spouse, a friend, a coworker. When I feel disappointed in a friend, for example, it's because I want that friend to be who I want them to be, not who they really are at that moment. And that's when I ask myself, wait a minute, can I give them permission to be who they are? Do they really have to live up to who I think they should be? And here's one that I love. Can I accept that I feel disappointed and have that be okay, but not be upset with them because they caused it by not showing up the way I wanted them to? You see, asking those questions brings me to a place of, well, not only taking responsibility for what I feel, but it also brings me a sense of freedom. Because the moment I stop holding someone hostage to my expectations, I free both of us. I stop needing them to be different. And when I do that, I remember the love we have for each other. But I will say this: if the disappointment is recurring and I see that it's a pattern between us that really matters to me, that it's really important to me, then I will speak up. Now, because of that, we may go through a little bump in the road, but I'm willing to face that for the sake of having a real relationship. And you know something? You will find out very quickly how strong your friendships really are when you venture forth in your courage to be able to say, you know, something you said last week didn't sit well with me. And to be truthful, I have lost friendships because they weren't able to hear my feelings. But for those who were, the friendships became more real and our trust in each other deepened, and it gave them permission to do the same with me. Now that's a real friendship, and it's those friendships that last. So being a disappointment doesn't just apply to people, it applies to life itself. When I'm disappointed in the world, and believe me, I am, but it's only because the world isn't living up to my expectations of how I think it should be. And when I'm disappointed in myself, it's because I'm not living up to my own picture of how I should be. So in those moments, I have to remind myself, I give myself permission to be a beautiful, flawed, and imperfect human being. So it's important to accept with love that you will always be a disappointment in some way to someone else or to yourself. And you know, here's what I say to that. Two of my favorite words. So what? You can't go through life without being a disappointment. You just can't. So why not accept it and refuse to let it define your worth? I have found that saying, I can be a disappointment, is one of the most freeing things you'll ever say. Because what you're really saying is this: I am still enough. I'm just not perfect. Learning to be a disappointment is how you love yourself. It's how you build courage and compassion, and it gives you the opportunity to have a voice and live your truth, which is so important to your growth. And you, my dear friends, are not here to live up to the expectations of others. Yours are high enough. You are here to learn equal importance, to know your needs, and to have a voice. Your truth matters just as much as anyone else's. So, if this message resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe and like and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you like this video on disappointment, make sure you watch my video on healing regret, because regrets are also necessary for our growth. And here's one more thing that I really would love to say to you. I would really love it if you would let me know what videos you would like me to make. I really want to know what you're struggling with, what you're longing to understand, and what keeps you up at night. So if you would comment on this, it will really help me to make the videos that move you forward on your path as a human being and as a soul. So until next time, always keep this in mind. There really is no one worth knowing more than you.